And good morning and welcome to the VSA Capital 5 Minute Morning Miner. It's Friday, the 21st of April. It's been a long old week, isn't it, Paul?
Yes, it has been for sure, for sure.
Well, it feels like it anyway. Actually, of course, it's 5 days, and the week always is 5 days, working days. And of
It's
course, at
how it
VSA,
feels, which is important. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's true. And of course, at VSA, we do come into work every day. We're not believers in this sort of more lifestyle system, shall we say. Anyway, we don't want to get me going on that. Let's get into mining, where actually the big boys, I mean, BHP and Glencore, are warning of production being lower, basically. BHP in particular in nickel. I think Glencore probably are trying to suggest that they're not lower, but it is. I mean, I think it's fair to say that everybody at the moment is producing a little bit less, and yet demand is going up. And that has a very clear consequence, doesn't it, Paul? You end up with a crunch and a squeeze on the price of commodities. And this is sort of the hangover from 15 to 20 years of no investment in the sector. What do you think is going to happen, Paul?
Well, yes, it is probably it is somewhat disappointing here, both in these big producer numbers here. With a focus on Glencore, I've got here their nickel output was down by 30% on their quarterly numbers year on year. But they did maintain their full year guidance for the year. On the BHP situation, that has yet to be decided, I think, going forward. But with the base metals in particular down across the board at Glencore, it's not that encouraging to see that we need so much more being produced to meet these climate targets, and yet the big producers are finding that they are not delivering the amount of metal into the market that is otherwise needed.
It's definitely going to be a problem. I mean, again, we've discussed that. You know, the crunch and the squeeze in the price tends to happen when it actually physically occurs, and it's all looking as though it'll probably occur sort of back in a 24, early 25, and so we may not see prices of commodities move till then, but they're going to move. It's going to be, one hell of a squeeze. Anyway, that's BHP and Glencore this morning. What else do you want to chat about this morning, Paul?
I thought it was interesting to see this update here coming out from a couple of ASX producers earlier this week. Galena Mining, which had been in a trading halt, resumed trading yesterday. That's an outfit that's opened a brand new lead zinc mine in Australia. And they have reported that the mine ramp up is underperforming due to disappointment in the continuity of the ore and the shallow stopes that they had targeted for first production. So they had announced a capital raise, which appears to have been successful in order to help support the working capital in early months here. We also had an announcement out from Calidus Resources, ASX listed, the new gold producer there, that what I had noticed in the latest quarterly statement, that it was underperforming on what I would call the mine call. In other words, what the grade to the mill should be, as opposed to what the mine model had predicted. And they have also announced a capital raise. It has been successful in order to help support their working capital, but it also is enough to drive forward what is they had in the mine plan for the stage 2 and stage 3 expansion, it appears, as well. So definitely Australian investors being asked to pony up more money in order to get the late stage new projects in order to get performing to work here. We also had a update from Scott Gold, which it had earlier in March had indicated its difficulties too in trying to get its mine into steady state production up in Scotland. And they have announced a open offer fundraise to attempt to raise between 1.5 and 2 million sterling. But they also gave a lot of good detail on what the current mine operations are underground, which means that they are, and that is showing me that they are paying an awful lot of attention to making sure, as much as they can, that the mine is producing the grades of ore that it is supposed to be producing.
And finally, maybe, Paul, I'll wrap up. We did have a comment yesterday that we hadn't commented about the RNS from Alchemy Capital. Just a quick comment there is that first of all, it came out at 8 o'clock. We tend to comment upon the 7 o'clock RNSs on this 5-minute morning miner. Some of us are at our desks at 6:30 and nobody knows quite when we do record it as well. Also, it was in truth just a sort of a summary of announcements they'd already made. And finally, of course, Alchemy Capital, that's heavily involved in the lithium space because it's a lithium hydroxide manufacturing capability, so to speak. You could argue it's a chemicals business, not a mining business. Anyway, just to say that we clearly haven't forgotten about it. It's a corporate client of ours, and the price reacted well yesterday. And we of course, we'll do everything we can to help the company. So that's just to finish off with that. Have a good weekend, everybody listening. Have a good weekend yourself, Paul, and we'll be back next week.
Very good. See you then.